collaboration with the U.S. State Department, we here at NASA send this transmission out so that other life forms may be introduced to the United States culture and identity. If this transmission reaches your civilization, know that we come in peace and simply want to share with you who we are as a country to you. Within this transmission, you will find 5 items: 1 document, 2 artifacts, 1 person, and 1 event, with an audio-visual description of each that we feel describes us. God bless you, and God bless America.
To 3 documents and artifacts that represent America. The first one we're going to be using is the Emancipation Proclamation. This document shared by Abraham Lincoln during the American Civil War was an executive order that, in his own words, and by virtue of the power and for the purpose of foremost, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and part of states are henceforward shall be free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons. What that means in the context is that the slaves in the states that were in rebellion against the Union government during the Civil War were free. This is important as it defined that the Civil War is no longer just a war to hold the Union together, but to end slavery, which will be backed by another quotation from the text, and upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considered judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of God. Lincoln is directly tying this fight and this executive order into morality, and in doing so, it represents that America stands as a nation for freedom, a nation that will fight for the freedom of others. And this document represents that idea that America has aspired to defend since its inception, and truly showing the goodness of America. The second object we're going to use for this Kepler project is a non-artistic artifact. In this case, a Coca-Cola bottle. On paper, this is just a soft drink, one that you drink when you just want to have a good time and relax. But for America itself, it represents so much more than that. Beyond just being a soft drink, it is essentially an ambassador of American culture to the world. Since the World War II ended and during the Cold War, the soft drink was exported elsewhere and from America to the rest of the world, and became a staple of American culture both home and abroad. It became a representative of American culture, especially when it was clashing with Soviet socialist culture. Even after the Cold War ended, it continued to be representing America throughout the world. Overall, it represented globalization and an American influence in global culture, as anyone around the world can identify Coca-Cola and identify it's a soft drink and it's American. This shows how American culture has impacted the world through its superpower status, and additionally, it represents how capitalism, the ideology that America has touted so much, especially throughout the Cold War, has been ultimately prevalent throughout the earth and represent American triumph in foreign policy. Our artistic artifact we chose was the Star Spangled Banner. This was a song composed by Francis Scott Key during the War of 1812, and it signifies America a lot of things. First off, it's the national anthem. It was chosen to be the national anthem in the early 20th century as it was a song that represented America, and by then most Americans had some connection to. This song is about how American forces didn't give up against the British onslaught during the Battle of Baltimore during the War of 1812. What this song shows is how America's flag never fell down and never stopped waving through the fire and artillery of the battle. It shows American spirit in the sense that it's that's a resilient nation with people willing to fight for what they believed in, as it was shown through the Emancipation Proclamation. Ultimately, what this does show is that it's the national anthem It's meant to represent America, not just emotionally, but physically. Show it to the world. This is what America believes. These are the values America wants to show to everyone, both on Earth and beyond.
Born on January 30th, 1882 in Hyde Park, New York, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, better known simply as FDR, would become one of America's most loved presidents. Following his graduation from Harvard University and Columbia Law School, FDR would successfully run for the New York State Senate in 1910 and would rise to the ranks of vice presidential nominee under Woodrow Wilson in 1920. Soon after, however, he was officially diagnosed with polio, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down. However, embodying the true spirit of American perseverance, he pulled through the illness, slowly gaining some control back in his legs. He then became New York governor in 1928 and eventually president in 1932. We as representatives chose FDR because he demonstrates an active reformer which improved the lives of many Americans, helped Americans survive the Great Depression, led Americans through World War II, which reshaped American identity, and was wildly popular during his time, being the only president to be elected 4 times. Passing sweeping reform, relief, and recovery laws like the PWA, the Wagner Act, and the Social Security Act, he fundamentally changed Americans' view of government, successfully began recovery from the Great Depression, and set up programs that we citizens still enjoy today. This president is important for others' proper understanding of the American identity as he marked the beginning of modern America. Through the establishment of the New Deal, he would instill the American values of a limited welfare state and workers' rights. Additionally, he would be one of the main men in charge in setting up America's new position in the world stage post-World War II. Through the conferences at Tehran, Yalta, and Potsdam, he and other allies would redefine the world as we know it and set up a generally safer era to come, even despite the Cold War. The Pilgrims arriving at Plymouth were one of the first settlers to arrive in what would become the United States. The vast North American continent had previously been inhabited primarily by Native Americans and the British colony of Jamestown further south. Our representatives chose this moment rather than the founding of Jamestown, as this moment is still marked as one of the beginnings of American history and is recounted through several stories, like with holidays as Thanksgiving, an integral part of American culture. After their arrival, the Pilgrims faced almost insurmountable challenges, like bitter winters and widespread crop failures. It was only through the help of the local Indian tribes that these settlers were able to survive. The same tribes that the settlers would find themselves in conflict with only a few years later. This established America's long and complicated relationship with the indigenous people as it sought expansion. The arrival of the Pilgrims also came with it features that would become distinctly American, such as the first governing document on the continent, the Mayflower Compact, written before the Pilgrims landed in Massachusetts. Additionally, the religious Puritan values would continuously define the culture, especially in the region of New England, which had lasting effects on the political and social situation of the country down the line. The dogma of hard work and self-reliance of the Puritan religious teachings set the seed for what would sprout as the American dream, the dream where anyone with enough mind and dedication could accomplish anything they desire. Thus, this small group of religious radicals stepping foot on an empty, rocky beach in Massachusetts can be best seen as setting the foundation for what would become seen as America.